Welcome to the Merge, everybody. This is Coach Geo. I'm really excited for today's podcast episode. Listen, it's been a while since me and this person have been able to see each other face to face, and she's family. Okay, we originally started our relationship about 3.5 years ago, and it's become more than just a trainer-client relationship. She's awesome. She's a great resource that I've gone to and looked at, asked questions about when it comes to parenting, because your boy has his hands full. Okay, so I'm very excited to introduce you all to Federika Tovar. Welcome to the Merge podcast. It's so good to see you today.
Thank you so much for this invitation. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And like you said, this is a family thing.
Yeah. So the thing that interests me so much about you, right? So we met, I worked at a corporate gym and we met. It's crazy to think it's been 3.5 years now. But when we met, I was in a season of transition where I was trying to figure out my next move and figuring out in the health and wellness space, how can I get to the next step, right? And you had maybe been in Miami how long?
It was maybe 4 or 5 months at the latest.
Wow. 4 to 5 months. Okay. I don't know why I thought you were here longer than that, but
No.
4 to 5 months. Okay. And I know we had talked a lot about the culture shock and how Miami is crazy, right? Like if you guys go to Google right now, you can go ahead and type in Florida man and then put just like, for example, put the date of your birthday. So put Florida man, September 15th, which is my birthday. And if you guys want to send me some gifts, please go ahead and do so. But if you put Florida man, September 15th, for example, something will pop up of a Florida man in the news doing something crazy. So I know you've experienced a lot of craziness in Miami, but I'm really grateful for you and your family. At first, I started training you, then your mother, and then your husband.
Yeah.
And listen, I love what I do. It's really fun. But some of the most fun times and moments that I've had in my career has been with you guys. So I appreciate that. But tell us a little bit about your journey right now, what you've been up to. I'm curious to know and share it with the people that are watching.
Of course. Well, the first question would pop up is, where did I come from? So Originally from Venezuela. I have a Colombian husband, and we were transferred to New York, where he was at that point an investment banker, and I had my 2 kids in New York. So why the transition from New York to Miami? It was because of both of my kids' autism diagnosis. So New York is a wonderful, crazy town, but I found myself during a winter storm and not being able to receive enough services. And my mom had an apartment here, and it was a decision that it took pushing on my husband's side, me being a bully about it. But honestly, like looking into everything that was piling up on top of our shoulders, and realizing that New York was not facilitating certain accessibility towards support therapies. And I just Googled like Autism Miami School, found one. And he said initially, like, this is a 6-month thing. And I was like, okay, fine. And we came here and never went back. So here I am at Transplanted New York before the Great Migration, because I came in 2019. So I was an early adopter.
Yeah, you actually got here at the perfect time.
Oh my
before
God.
The homes were ridiculously overpriced and all the craziness of the New Yorkers coming over here. But you touched upon your children. I love your kids. First off, they're so big. When I see them, every time I see them, they grow. It's like, what do you feed them at home?
I don't know.
Arepas.
Well, obviously arepas, the Venezuelan kind, not the Colombian kind.
Yeah.
Okay? We have that a never-ending argument back at home. But definitely my oldest kid is Luisa. She's going to be 7th one day after your birthday.
Yeah.
Yep. And she just was born in a regular sized. Everything was, adequate. And then she just blew up. Tallest. She's like in the 97th percentile. Wow. Still is. And everybody like looks at me and my husband. I was like, why did this kid get so big? I was like, I don't know. Definitely something in the genetics of it. Maybe it's like older great grandparents were tall or something like that. But she is, I mean, she's 7 and she wears 10 to 12-year-old girls' clothes. I mean, she's that tall.
But she's amazing. I would love it when you guys were like getting to the sessions or leaving, and then you would say, "Hey, say hi to Geo," and she would be like, "Hi, Geo." She's so cute.
Yeah.
But so she's gonna be 7, and how old is your son?
My son is 5.
5, okay. So how was that transition from you having your first child and then the second one? Was it like the changes you went through in your body?
Yeah. The body and the mind.
And the mind, yes.
Well, so obviously, the curious thing about us women, I think it's such an important phase, pregnancy, that we buy like all these ridiculous books and we go and do all this research for pregnancy, but then we don't do the research on the parenting side of it. Yeah. So I was, a new mom. All my friends in New York were single and mingling, and I was the only one with a kid in New York during winter times. So, and I really didn't have a comparison because all my friends who have kids were back home. So definitely it was it wasn't a sad one, but I wasn't like aware, let's say, of like milestones that had to be met. And when she turned 1, I got pregnant with my second son. So she wasn't in a daycare or anything like that. And when I was 3 months away from giving birth, then she entered the daycare. And that's when like certain characteristics, I would say, people say red flags. I don't like to use that because it's like an alarming fact as if something is wrong, but characteristic as to be concerned at. And the problem that happened to me in New York, unfortunately, was that I had a young pediatrician who I started like taking my concerns to and saying like, she's not repeating, she's not mimicking, she's not talking. And the immediate response was, she's not talking because you are bilingual and she's going to a English-speaking daycare and you guys speak Spanish at home. So don't worry about it. Let it, it will emerge and, chill.
Yeah.
And I did. And then I had my son, and it was a great experience. And the thing about it is that back then people asked me like, did you have like noticed something? And the thing is that she wasn't like talking or repeating, but she was a happy as can be kid. I mean, so fun. She would babble all the time. So it wasn't like at some point the pediatrician was like, she clearly can hear because I would be in another room and call her name and she would come. But definitely that part of like women focusing solely on the pregnancy side of it and not like documenting us ourselves, because it's like 9 months or 10 technically of like the most completely crazy alterations inside your body that you're so focused on that, and you're so focused in like this well-being and this connection. And once baby comes out, you imagine like your intuition does kick in, but there's no IKEA manual with it, and we're not prepared this point to like really like understand miles. I think nowadays, with the whole pandemic and everything, like a lot of social media accounts have reemerged, especially like this whole conscious discipline parenting side of it has like opened itself to like the broader society side of it. But back in the day, this was 2017 when my son was born, I wasn't really aware of that, milestones. So eventually what happened, she turned 2, she wasn't like speaking. And that's when that same pediatrician was like, okay, I'm going to give you a prescription to get an evaluation. So that started September 2017. And I would just like to add, for every parent out there, you do not need a prescription from a pediatrician. If you have like these doubts and these concerns, you can directly Google any not neurodiverse, like I would say like a neurodevelopmental evaluation side of it, because technically what happened, since I was like, labeled Latina in New York and like making my kid confused because I was bilingual, was that I lost like 8 months. If I would have like attacked the issue before, when my concerns were not being heard, 8 months in a 1-year-old kid's life is more than half of their life. So obviously it's very important, like the early intervention process of it. So got the evaluations, and those take a long time.
So how long first off, my question, the first one is, when did you start having doubts? Like, something is different here. I need to address this.
It was when Mateo was born. So she was about a year and a half old. Okay. That, like the first words start coming. I mean, they're obviously their kids start speaking like at a year old. But this was those 6 months where I thought, like, this is not something that it's like not emerging. And so if we put it in a perspective, if I would have gotten an evaluation right then and there, I would have gotten like 2 years worth of therapy from the state. And then so that got delayed because the prescription side of it that you don't need technically. So that was and I was even lucky. That was September. I got the evaluation started in November.
So a year and 2 months later.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Okay. So there you go. You start adding up. So that's the important side of like knowing information out there and really trusting your intuition about it. And the evaluation was so like.
And you're present. You're there with her. They don't put you in a separate room or anything like that. Okay.
You're there. They came to my house, and so that process is like, well, say hello. So, and I reread all the evaluations of that early initial one, and it was like, mother said that baby hadn't slept, and that would cause. So it was like obviously that there's the. You're waiting for so long, and then typically that same day that you've been waiting for so long, like she's in a grumpy mood. Then we parents and family can understand that are around little kids. That can change a person, a little person from night and day.
And how long was this evaluation? This whole process?
So it was like an hour and a half thing.
You see, that's tough because how can you assess someone in just an hour and a half? Now, yes, I know there's red flags, and listen, I'm not a doctor or anything like that, but how can you grasp somebody and like the complexity of a human being, especially on a day that might not be their best day, in an hour and a half? Like, that's crazy to me.
It's the problem of the system about it. But so you go through these hoops and you just write it out, and then I got the report of it, and I read something that was so completely clinical and detached, like so cold, and that I didn't even realize, like I really didn't even pay attention. I didn't finish reading the whole report because I said, this is to an extreme, so clinically like detached from like a comforting side of it. Like it's so technical. So I honestly didn't finish reading it. And but the good thing, that was November. So the good thing, and here we go. And again, the love for Miami. I came for 2 weeks for a holiday before like Christmas vacation. Came here. My mom has a place here. Came here, and my intuition snapped into gear without me even realizing. I was like, oh, so in that initial evaluation, what the New York State had given me, the state paid for these like therapies, considering like the evaluation submitted to the state, that I would be given 2 times 30-minute sessions of speech therapy and 1 hour called special instructions. So for me, I was happy because I thought, I have during the week an hour and a half of a free nanny paid by the New York State. So that was my mentality. But since I was coming to Miami, I was like, she's starting these therapies in January 2018. If she's going to Miami and does nothing, let me look for something around the area to see if she can like start speech therapy. Why not?
So let's backtrack a little bit, because there's a lot to unpack there. Yeah. Like, first off, you're a new mother, right? Your daughter is at the time not even 2 years old yet. And nobody knows your kids better than you. Yeah. Right? Like, as a parent, you know your kids. If you're a good parent, right? You should know your kids, you know what to pick up on, you know all these things. But there's certain things that you might miss out on, which is why you went out and said, listen, there's something that's off here. It doesn't make my child any less than, but I need to give the services that my child deserves, right? Yeah. So you went out of your way. For those of us that are watching that might not know, first off, because in my opinion, we've talked about this before, autism is something that's taboo. People don't want to talk about it. It's like, oh man, I hope my child isn't diagnosed with autism.
Doesn't catch it.
Yeah, right? Like if it's COVID or something. Yeah. But for those of us watching, like, can you please give us, an explanation or just tell us what autism is? Yep. And in addition to that, I actually want to follow up with that. But just for now, tell us what that is.
So autism is a neurological, they call it disorder. I would like to say neurodevelopmental condition that implicates socialization, communication, stereotypical behaviors or repetitive movements, and just an overall sense of how their brain is rewired differently. It doesn't mean that it's not a disease. Please, please, please. This is something that it's a condition that is considered to be different from a neurotypical brain. Neurotypical brain is yours and mine. They're just wired differently. I try to explain it like some people are PCs and other people are Macs and Apples. So
that's a good way of explaining it.
Yeah,
I mean, made it simple.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. And so, when the Mac came into our lives and Apple, like initially people were like, it's a rejection. We use PCs, we use Windows. This operating system is never going to work. I mean, I remember I got a Apple laptop when I was 18, and it was, most of the Wi-Fi services like wouldn't allow you to connect it. Yeah. Like the Ethernet, it was different. It was completely like that. So obviously that's trying to bridge that gap. It's not that it's a disease. It's a neurodevelopmental condition that just affects those areas. And it's been present since early men. Yeah. What am I trying to imply here? So the society was born. There's prehistoric data, and most of neurotypical prehistoric guys and gals went through the neurotypical side of it. They developed commerce, they developed communication, they developed society rules. But on the other side of the spectrum, there are these throughout history, we can pick up on those, like the shamans. Who discovered fire? That OCD prehistoric man that would not give up. Yeah. And it was like that much focused in its task. So it's always been present. It's not a pandemic, because I say it's a growing pandemic. Yes, it's the numbers of diagnoses are increasing, but because diagnostics and evaluations and professionals imparting in this sort of type of different careers are growing.
Yeah. And you know what? I feel that, yes, you're 100% absolutely correct. This has been around, but growing up, we're in our 30s and we see it. Maybe 20 something years ago, people would refer to that kid that kept drawing in a circle over and over and over again. Oh, ese medio raro, right? We would put these stigmas.
Yeah. There's labels.
There's labels, right?
Yeah. And
unfortunately.
Yeah. So basically, the part that is important to understand is that we as society, what we know about autism and what I knew about autism before my kids were diagnosed are the stigmas that we learn from society. And those stigmas are not, they're based on a wrongful view of information, but I don't necessarily think that they're ill-intentioned. So we lack information.
Yeah.
So that is why it's still a taboo. It's still a stigma. Now it's been like, there's certain movies that we know autism and it goes to other extremes. And it's not that it's there. And autism, the thing about it, that it's so difficult to understand is that each autism in every person is different.
Completely different.
Yeah. So that's why it's called a spectrum. And imagine like a DJ set with all its knobs and different levels of every instrument. That is what autism is. Yeah. So it's not that you can characterize or classify a person. It's not a binary condition. It's not COVID. It's not that you have it or you don't.
This is the way that you treat it. Yeah.
So that is why some people say, oh, it has these tendencies. It's, es el raro. Yeah. So definitely that's why nowadays, and I think it's emerging, this new sense of talking about it, not making it a taboo, not considering it as a disease, but actually like embracing it. It's just different. Different is not bad. And people try to say, oh, it's not normal. Well, let's ask ourselves something different. What is normal? I mean,
what defines?
Everybody is different. But at the end of the day, we're all the same. We're human beings, but each one of us has different fingerprints. And we have to see it like that. So their rewiring of the brain is differently. They see the world and they feel the world differently. Yeah. And that's okay. But unfortunately, they have to live in a neurotypical society. And so we have to open these bridges up into communication and understanding and really hopefully to educate this new upcoming society of these new kids of learning about empathy and inclusion.
Well, I have to tell you, I'm very grateful for you because I've mentioned it before, I've learned a lot from you, but to be in the position that you are, the way that you've been able to handle things with grace, I know it requires a lot of patience. You know what I mean? I know it requires a lot of effort, and I'm a firm believer that whatever happens in consequence, I don't want people to think of consequences as a negative, because a consequence could be if I eat healthy, if I work out, I'm going to be in better health. That's a consequence, right? But sometimes things happen in life that directly impact us, and you have taken it gracefully. You know what I mean? Your children, every time I see them, I love seeing them.
Graceful now. I wasn't grateful then.
Not at 2 a.m. when you're hearing your kid cry, or I've seen videos of your daughter singing Frozen in the middle of the night. It's funny. It's hilarious. She's great. But I'm very grateful because you mentioned something about knowledge, right? The knowledge isn't out there. Well, people like you are giving us that knowledge. Yeah. You know? So I just wanted to say that I'm very grateful for the impact that you've made and making this normal, because it, like you mentioned, what is normal, right? For so long, hemos como rechazado, right? Anybody that's been diagnosed, or a parent that has a child that's been diagnosed with autism, but they're still contributing members to our society. Oh yeah. So like
obviously we go again back to stigma, but Elon Musk, hello, diagnosed, and most of the geniuses back in our history, I mean, Leonardo da Vinci, I'm surely he was.
Yeah. And he was
the
super
only-
tall too, right? I think
Yeah.
they said he was like 6'8" or something like that.
Wow.
Something like that.
Hopefully my daughter doesn't get that tall. Maybe she plays basketball and you can coach her then. But yes, definitely. So I wanted to say something because you were grateful for me. So I do have a podcast, but I try to attack all these issues in Spanish because there's a lot of great information out there in English, but not in Spanish. So my podcast is called Autismo Sin Miedo, or Autism Without Fear. And it's a sarcastic name because there is fear every day.
Yeah.
There's terrors of the present, fears of the past, and panicking nonstop about what if and what is going to happen in the future. So that's the basis of the name. But when I got here, I got the official diagnosis just to come around what we were discussing before. So I found I was coming to holiday. I already had my evaluations. She was starting therapies in New York in December 2018. And my intuition just kickstarted, and I looked for a therapy center. Thankfully, I ended up in a really good one. And the good thing about Miami is that I wasn't labeled or stigmatized as the Latina bilingual that is making her kid confused because of two languages.
And I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm very curious because I've mentioned it, now I know more, but before, if any one of my kids would have been diagnosed, I don't know how I would have been able to handle that. Now, because I've seen your example, just like you didn't have an example before you in New York, it makes things smoother. That's why I think although things happen to us in life, it's great that you can refer to others that have gone through that walk and you can go to them for advice, just a shoulder to cry on or lean on, whatever the case may be. That first conversation that you had with your husband, how did that go? Like, what was your thought process? How'd that play out?
So I was coming to that because I was in New York, so I got the intuition, found a great therapy center here in Miami to find those 2 weeks of therapy. And the therapy center is run by a Colombian girl. It's in Miami. Therapists are in English, but she's Colombian.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Oh, do you have evaluations?" And I sent her to her. And then I spoke later about it. And she was like, "Oh my God, she has an autistic girl, and she hasn't been told that she has an autistic kid in her
So
head."
they did the evaluation and they didn't tell you? Wow.
No.
Okay. I thought they did.
No.
Wow.
No, that's what happened. So here I come in Miami, thinking it's just a speech delay. And turns out she was like, so I ended up going here in Miami to the center, and they started smoothing things out. They were like, "We think that besides the speech delay, we think that there might be a sensory processing disorder. And, we're gonna give you, I mean, thank God for that girl for that therapist, because she really pushed on me getting the best doctor in Miami, a neuropediatrician who runs the Jackson Memorial Center for Autism. I mean, this guy is like the big gun here in Miami. And, it was December 19th. He was going to go away on holiday the next day. We were said, okay, you have an appointment at 5:30 p.m. I mean, the office is at close. And we went...
Rush
and it
hour.
was like rush hour. We were, me, my husband, Luisa, my 2-year-old daughter, 2 and 3 months, and my baby, who wasn't even a year old. He was like 9 months. And we just go in. Obviously, he was given all the evaluations. He just looked at her and he said, "I'm sorry, guys, to tell you this," because unfortunately, the people in New York didn't feel the need to imply this. Your daughter is diagnosed with autism. I'm giving you the diagnosis.
Yeah.
Everything that I remember from that day, funny enough, we left the hospital, and it was the most beautiful sunset I've ever seen. And it just reminded me of that movie Vanilla Sky.
Oh,
so
such a
long
good movie.
ago.
Yeah.
And the only thing that ringed into my mind is that quote, every passing minute is a chance to turn it all around. And that's all I said to my husband. I was like, this is a sign. It's going to be a struggle. It's going to be horrible. Like the grief that we're going to go through, but we're going to go through it. Obviously, he just like bawled his eyes out. And that's when the stages of grief come into. So I was not aware of it. I didn't pay attention to it. So I would say my husband went through stages of grief differently than I did. And so just to clarify, 5 stages of grief is, ¿cómo se dice? Negación. Oh my goodness. Denial. Then comes rage. Then comes, it's called negotiation, because then you try to change your situation about it. That's when it comes with the slippery slide of trying to find a cure, which there isn't. And unfortunately, there's a lot of social media and lots of therapies out there who promise a cure and there is none. So then comes depression. And the good thing about being sad and depressed about it is that is opening the door towards radical acceptance of your life. So those are the 5 stages. So, and it's not linear, and it's cyclical. It doesn't end, because every stage in life is like that. But 2018, I would say, was the worst year of our lives. And we had 2 cute babies in our hands. But at that point, we had Luisa with a diagnosis. Here came like the flood of, obviously we went back to New York with the diagnosis of the neurologist in Miami and told them, the F-bomb.
Or a few.
Yes, or a few. And so we were like, oh, you want Latin? Now you want like bilingual. Oh, you want Latina?
Go. You got it.
You want Latina attitude?
Cuidado.
We got,
Be careful
we were
what
like,
you wish for.
We're going to sue you.
Yeah.
Because, you just thought that it was just give him 2 hours of therapy a week. It's not enough. No. And then we left with 40 hours a week, which is quite the increment.
Well, I'll tell you this. I really love, because, and this is for a parent that maybe their child has not been diagnosed with autism, or a parent that has a child that is. I'm a firm believer that you have to educate your own kids at home, because you're the one raising them, right? Yeah, we can put them in school and daycare, whatever the case may be, but that's your child. And my mother-in-law always says, "Tú cría tu niño para el mundo, no para ti."
Yep.
So I love that, although yes, your children get therapy, they go to school, and that's awesome. You educate them at home, and you teach them, and you play with them, and you do all of these things that anybody else might even be like, wow, she does a lot, and you do a lot. Rightfully so. First off, they're your kids, but then also you spend the time with them, investing, making sure that they have not only the best schools or therapy, but they have the best at home as well.
Yes. There is a type of therapy called RDI, Relationship Development Intervention, and that is solely for the parents to implement the connection you need with your child who's neurodiverse, to really understand and prepare him for the world. And what the end goal is, having autonomous children, or having enough resources to give him the most autonomy they require. Obviously, the spectrum is wide and vast, and that implies that obviously there are people who will become extremely adaptable to society, and some that unfortunately won't. Some people are nonverbal. Yeah. Some require constant 24-hour care. Some people are elopers.
That's scary.
Violent. It's scary.
Yeah,
and that's
the elopers
one
part worries me.
Yeah, and that's one sense. My kid had a little episode, and it was so fun. Caught her climbing the wall of the house. She ended up in the street.
No way. Yeah. How old was she when that happened?
That was 2 years ago or something like that.
So
She was
she's 4 years old at the
She was
time.
5, but she
She's
was so tall.
climbing walls?
Yeah.
Okay, so no, we have to talk about that. So was there steps on the wall? Like, how did she get up there?
It was like concrete, but then it had like the bars. Like
Okay.
so she just grabbed the chair, and she's so tall, and she just like monkeyed barred her
No,
way out
she's
of the
a
house.
gymnast. We have to put her in
She
the
is
Olympics.
a gymnast, exactly. She is a force to be reckoned with. So obviously we had to like gate that thing. We had to put like fake foliage and stuff like that, so she wouldn't grab on.
This girl right here.
Oh no, she is amazing. That like so ways to get herself into trouble, or ways to get us into trouble.
Yeah.
But so 2018 was really tough, and then what happened was, New York State said, okay, she's gonna be 3. She has to be put on a special needs school.
Mm-hmm.
I was living back in the day in Financial District where Wall Street is, and the placement of the school was Harlem.
Oh.
So she was going to be assigned a bus. So far, and she was going to be assigned a bus to pick her up. And, Manhattan traffic, that's going to be my 3-year-old kid strapped for a bus for 3 hours with other neurodiverse children with no support. I was like, no way. It's not going to happen. So since I rejected that school, they said, okay, fine. We're giving you everything, but now you get partial services. And so we start January 2019 with partial services. And it was, one of those winters, like, the big blizzard that happened. I don't remember, but there's blizzards. But that was
that would scare anybody to come to Miami.
Yes, exactly. So, and she just lost like half of her support, and she just like went inside and like retreated.
In a cocoon.
She retreated. She wasn't happy. She was moody, and I just knew. And I just told my husband, inside on my side of things, I was like, I'm willing to risk my marriage, but I know, like, my intuition was like at this point screaming at me, like, you need to get these kids out of this situation. And my husband technically still works in New York, and we said, okay, we're gonna do this long distance thing, and we just packed our bags. He accompanied us to New York, to Miami from New York, and I arrived February 2019 to Miami.
Well, I will tell you this. I've never told you this.
Yeah.
And here you go, listeners. On my way to work every morning, I usually leave my house 5 a.m., 5:30. And I, regardless of what you guys believe in, this is not just you, but anybody, I pray for people. Whether you believe in prayer or not, I believe in it, and I believe it has an effect on people. And every month or so, I have a list of people that I'll pray for. And there's been times where I have you guys on that because I know not only is it difficult to manage your life with your children for anybody, on top of the obstacle that it is to be more understanding, graceful with the situation, in addition to the fact that there's times, I know that he often travels back and forth, but that can be a huge strain, not only on your children's life, but on your life as well.
Yes.
So I pray for you guys all the time, and I commend you because you guys are so strong as a couple. And I know that, listen, there's no such thing as a perfect couple. Like people it's cyclical. Yep. Love, I always say love is not a feeling you feel. It's a decision you make, and you pick up that every single day, and you decide, listen, no matter how tough things may be, I'm going to make this vow. Obviously, there's certain things that can, if somebody abuses me, I'm out, certain things like that. But you guys choose to take that battle every single day, and I commend you for that. And before we move on, I just want to, for those of you that are watching right now, I really, really want you guys to plug in and learn from Federika. How can people, look you up, find maybe articles about you, your social media? Can you please share that with our listeners?
So it's at Autismo Sin Miedo, which is, you got to translate it. It's all in Spanish.
Yeah.
So, but
we have it
here we
written
are.
down for them to
We're
see.
here. Yeah, exactly. But here I am talking about it in English, which is important as well. Is at Autismo Sin Miedo everywhere. I have the YouTube, I have the podcast, I have the Instagram.
TikTok too, right?
TikTok too.
I love the TikToks.
The TikToks. Well, I do the same.
Yeah,
basically,
but still.
as the reels that I do on Instagram are the same ones, and TikTok, but all the same. And so fast forward, what happens? So I moved to Miami. And I make this funny joke that I understand all mothers because I'm a single mom during the week and I'm a married woman during the weekends when he comes. So I get it. I mean, you know, those single ladies struggling and having, you know, because there's like a really high percentage of divorce because of diagnosis. Yeah. And so I get it. I get it because I do it weekly. Yeah. Or now on and off. So I moved here. Obviously, it was like the burden of hell was on my shoulders. And then I have a cousin who's a doctor. And at that point, I was so desperate because I had no energy. And I was like, I need something to keep me there. And he was like, you need to work out.
Yeah. And that's how we met.
And that's how we met. And it's so funny. And then I find, and you know, I've had like on and off trainers throughout my life. And you know, they're like these bulky guys that make you feel inadequate, make you feel weak, you know, and you can do it. And you're like, I cannot. And you were the complete opposite. You were the nicest guy, the most understanding.
Thank you.
And then Geo just came into my life and not just gave me the energy that I needed because I was obviously rejecting that side of it. And looking for that balance of, you know, you got to exercise to keep not your body healthy, but your mind at peace. And, you know, I really wasn't able, even though, like, I have a lot of friends here, like, since my schedule is so hectic during the week, it's not that I have, like, you know, Tuesday's girlfend night or anything like that. I couldn't, have to get a nanny and stuff like that. I was so exhausted by that point that, by the way, when I got to Miami, I already had gotten the diagnosis for Mateo because I started with all the information I have from Lisa. I was like, okay, I'm starting to see different like aspects. They're completely different kids, very different kids, but the same diagnosis. So that's why I say, like, every person, you know, with autism is just that person with those characteristics. So there is a globalization and a mixture of characteristics, but each person has their own quirks and their own operating system to a different.
I'm very enlightened by our conversation today, and I'm very grateful because now I have another aspect. I see things in a different light. And I will say this: the fact that you jumped into everything so quickly and you were open. It's another thing. Having a trainer can be vulnerable. It's very vulnerable. You go into this gym, everybody seems to be fit. You're coming off 2 pregnancies, which this is a little spiel that I have. I really believe if you're watching this, okay, maybe we start a petition or something. Every single mother, okay, that has childbirth, whether it's a C-section, natural birth, whatever the case may be, I firmly believe that we should somehow, some way find in our healthcare industry to give mothers some form of pelvic therapy, lumbopelvic therapy. The trauma that mothers, and I'm not just talking about, there's some mental trauma behind that, but the trauma that your body goes through, they cut through a bunch of layers of abdominal muscles, like when you're a C-section, even natural birth, like it takes a while to get your pelvic floor muscles back. So that's my thing. If you're on, comment about that. I'd love to start something there.
Ladies, let's get on
Let's
board.
do it.
And gentlemen.
Yeah,
as well.
Gentlemen too, because we need listen, either we help people for their cause, or if we don't help, I mean, things won't get done. But I love how you just bounce back quickly from that. And I'm very grateful for the time that we've had today. But before we wrap things up today, what I would like to do is I'm going to ask you 3 questions, just some rapid fire questions so people get to know you a little bit better, right?
Go.
So what's your favorite movie?
Oh my God.
There's so many. I know there's a lot.
Oh my
there's
God.
A lot.
It depends. What genre?
Okay, so let's go 3 movies, right? Let's go a comedy, let's go a chick flick, And if you, I don't know if you like action. Do you like action movies?
Yeah, I love it.
All right, so let's do one of each.
I'm a nerd.
Let's
I'm a big nerd. So
like Star Trek nerd?
No, Star Wars nerd.
Okay. I could do Star Wars
and Marvel.
Marvel, okay.
So I would go comedy, Crazy Stupid Love.
Wow, you like, okay.
That movie gets me.
It's good.
It's so
good.
funny.
Pero para los gustos se hicieron los colores. I don't think that's one of the best ones, but that's your best one.
That's mine.
Okay.
I just like.
Who's in that one again?
Ryan Gosling, Steve
Carell.
Carell.
Okay, I remember that one.
I
remember
that Steve Carell crossed me up.
He's a trip.
Movie,
yeah, he's good.
I think that's like the romantic movie of it. I'm a sucker for King's Speech. King's Speech because it's speech.
Yeah.
And it comes to like how a stutter or a disability can be like. Quick note. I on my free time I watch nothing about autism. Nothing, because I live it every day. So it was like, have you watched Atypical? Have you watched this? Have you watched the other,
like,
The Good Doctor, and now this new Korean one that is Madame Wu or something like that. So I appreciate it, but it's technically like portrayed by actors that don't have autism. So it's like we end up being like stigmatizing and labeling and trying to fall in that hole. So obviously I try to keep away from those, but I know there's some great content out there. And
action.
Come on, action. Oh my goodness. There's so many. I would say The Last Jedi. I
don't know if we can be friends anymore.
I don't know. I mean that whole like I really didn't like the episode 1, 2, and 3. Those sucked. But
you mean like the ones from the late 90s, early 2000s? Yeah, those were
Natalie Portman ones. But I don't know. I'm more than action-wise, I'm a sucker for Game of Thrones. I mean, I love that blood.
Yeah.
I didn't like how it ended. But that is more. I'm sort of a nerd. So I read like the Lord of the Rings books and stuff like that. So
all of them?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I did read all the Harry Potter ones, so I can't complain.
I am a huge Harry Potter fan. Okay. I like the series part of it and the fantasy thing. But I'm not into movie critics or anything like that. But for the dramatic side of it, like King's Speech, like touches my heart.
That's like 2.5, 3 hours, right? That one, and I think it's Forrest Whitaker.
No, that is oh God, now it made me forget. The one who won the Oscar for it. He's British. Yeah. Oh my God, I forgot his name. Colin Firth.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking about a different movie. Yes.
Colin Firth? I forget it. Let's
okay. We'll look at we'll look it up.
We'll edit this part out.
All right, I got one more question for you. Okay. And I guess you can give me like different categories.
All right.
Favorite food. We can go like something more savory, salty, right? And then we can go something sweet.
No sweet.
No sweet?
No sweet for me.
Yeah, I know. We used to talk about that.
No sweet for me. I am a big sucker for a good French fry. A good one.
But you can't get full off of French. You can eat like 50 McDonald's bags of French fries and not get full.
I am very carnivorous, but lately I think I'm getting old. And like red meat every day, like I can't do it anymore.
But your husband makes the best paellas. He's good.
He's good, but he like overfed me. And now I was like, I don't want meat.
Okay.
I'll do meat once every 2 weeks or something like that. So I love seafood. So
okay. But you gotta pick. You gotta go one: French fries or seafood. You can't mix them.
Can't mix.
You have to pick one. That's just the rules. That's
all right. I mean, for the most fancy one, I would go sushi.
No,
like oh my god, like oh my god, and then like
when you're just chilling at home.
Yeah, like a good steak and fries, like the entrecôte.
But what, for any fry, or does it have to have like?
No. I would choose entrecôte, like the entrecôte. It's like the French one with the green sauce and the French fries. God. Yes, like the béarnaise sauce. Oh my god.
Oh. I know we shouldn't be eating these things, but hey man, Coach Geo, you heard it here first. Coach Geo cheats at once, sometimes even twice a week. So Saturdays and Sundays, I'm not perfect.
Exactly.
I'm not perfect, guys.
I remember he was vegan one time when we were
I did it for a year and it was not fun, but I did it.
Yes.
I checked that off the
to you.
list.
Kudos to you.
Federika, thank you so much. I love that you were here, that we were finally able to do this, because people, listen, she's been wanting to do this for a while, and I've been the jerk that keeps putting it off. So
No.
I'm grateful that we were able to do this. So
we are busy people, and this pro guy, you have to check him. I mean, if you think that I have it hard as a schedule wise, like yours is insane.
Hey, but we try our best with what we have, right?
Yes.
So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to our episodes on YouTube, The Merge Podcast. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter. It's also The Merge Podcast. Be blessed and move with purpose, y'all.